Hey everybody, this is going to be our first FLP family tutorial, so make sure you subscribe to FLP family. This is what you're going to be teaching today, how to make a drop like this. Okay, so let's start off. So basically in a drop there, probably in a progressive house drop, there's probably maybe four elements. One is your kick, and the other one's going to be your the main leads. The next is going to be your bass, and the next is going to be probably in some tracks white noise. So let me start over with the leads first, and then I'll move on to the kicks and the bass. So I have a couple of leads over here. So the first lead, you can check it out. I made it on silent. That's how it sounds. So on the leads, I made sure everything's mixed right over here. So on the leads we have side chain. So basically all your leads need to be side chain, and your basses needs to be side chain, so it gives room to your kick. Yeah, that's the main reason anyone would side chain. But yeah, I'm using the Kickstart by Nicky Romero. Also some EQing, which is gonna, on a lead you don't really need the low end. So what I normally do is I cut out the low end of the track and maybe boost up where it's required. And then if you are not too happy with the sound but still want to use it, you can get one tip to cut out bad frequencies in on leads would be to raise up, put it up at high frequency, any of the bands, and just play around and see, like, you play around and see which is the most annoying frequency and then bring that down. So that's going to help you clear it out a bit. And then next, then I've added a compressor. So what the compressor is actually doing is getting rid of those peaks, so to say, that for example when your sound goes too loud, it's going to bring that down a bit. You could check out more tutorials about compressing on YouTube. Then a sausage fattener, which is I added some color and also some fatness. So what this is going to do is going to increase, make it more thicker and get your leads more pumping, I would say. So yeah, that's, and then the other leads, how I've layered the leads is I've used some of the Nexus patches, and some it's better to do this on some of the leads, increase it by 1 octave, so you're covering the whole spectrum from the mid to the high range. So you have one which is playing on a lower octave and one's playing on a higher octave. So that's what I would do for the leads. And then for your other leads, it would make sense to again compress the other stuff. It's gonna glue these 4 leads together. So never use just one lead unless it's big room or whatnot. It would make more sense to layer with 2 or more sounds. So when you layer it, you get a more thicker and fuller sound. So it always makes sense to layer it. So this is how it sounds fully with all these 4 leads. So yeah, that's your leads. The next thing we're going to move on to is our basses. So in the basses, I've used four different basses. Generally, what would be more advisable is to use a bass with a sub bass, something in your mid frequencies and something in your higher mid frequencies. So your sub bass is going to give you the energy and the feel of the track, and your higher basses are just going to be like like which is trending in almost all progressive house songs these days, is these this kind of bass which keep playing like this, the really small 1/16 notes. So you're going to make sure these are all the high basses in your song. But otherwise, if you're not using this, it would just make sense to have something in the mids like this. Along with that, I have the sub bass here. So with all the basses together, it sounds like this. So let's get into the mixing of these basses. So the sub bass is over here. So in the sub bass, there's again a kickstart, but it's a more smoother kind of smoother side of side chaining over there. There's again another compressor, which is again so in your compressor, when you're compressing, you make sure that when you're decreasing the volume through the compressor, you make sure you're putting the gain up again, so that you don't lose the sound, because otherwise if I set the gain to normal, you're going to lose the volume. And then the parametric EQ, the EQ, this sub bass doesn't have anything beyond the mids, so I just cut out the whole end. And anything below 40 would never really reach in the sub bass. It's basically more of the 100 hertz, 200 hertz side. You can see there. Maximum goes up to 80, I think. So would make sure to make sure your EQ of your sub bass is like this. Then the next EQ on the sub bass is you're going to make sure that you cut out around 500 or 600. You can choose. You can, like, depending on the sound you've selected, you can choose along that range, because basically around 500 is where your mud starts trying to kick in. So I would suggest on almost everything you have, your leads, your drums, whatever, you make sure you cut out around 500 or 600. That's going to cause a lot of mud in your track, and you don't want that. At the same time, yeah, this around here at 50 I've cut it down, because I'll explain that to you in a bit. And then I have this. So on the little higher bass, I put in fruity fast distort. It's distorting the sound, but it's not like you know, when you're distorting a bass, you need to make sure that you're not overdoing it, because when you overdo it, it's gonna sound really bad. It's gonna sound like shit. And but if you had like a small amount of distortion, it's gonna make a huge amount of difference to your mix. Then again, some compression in EQ, just to cut out the low end, because this really doesn't have much lows. And then again, the sidechain, which is pretty smooth. And then we move on to the 1/16 basses. Again, this is heavily sidechain, heavily compressed. I put in a sound goodizer too, around that much. I'm gonna add an EQ too right now. The parametric EQ is more than sufficient for most of your needs. I don't think you need anything otherwise. And most of the time, just a high pass and a low pass would solve your mixing EQing problems. But yeah, if there's something detailed to be done, you could just you could just go more detailed into your EQ and find out the annoying frequencies in the mix and try to bring it down a bit. So this is pretty much all the EQ I do with this. Depending on the sound, depending on the sound you use. With all of that, it should sound like this. And then yeah, so let me get into the kick and the sub bass. So your kick and your sub bass is going to fight a lot, so you need to make sure that they aren't fighting a lot. So what do you do to make sure that that doesn't happen? So on my like I showed you on my kick, there are basically two EQs on my kick. One is this one and one is this one. So this one I've used additive EQ. So what additive EQ is, basically when you're boosting a frequency, that's called additive, and when you're subtracting a frequency, it's called subtractive EQ. So what I've used the additive is to just give it around the bass, around give it more thump, you could say, around 50 hertz. And I've reduced, the reason I've reduced it around 104 around here is because this is where the sub bass is the most prominent. So you need to cut out the, like if I'm adding 50 hertz over here, I would go to my sub bass and reduce 50 hertz right over there, because that's going to solve your bass and your kick fighting with each other. Again, on the same thing over here, if I add let me just show you that. On the sub bass, I've added at around 100 hertz, I've added about 3 dB. So on the same thing, I would do that to the kick. So the kick is reduced by 3 dB at 100 hertz, just to make sure that these two don't fight with each other. Also, when you're choosing your kicks, make sure your kicks are the same key of your track. So because if your track's on a say A minor, say let's say A major, if your kicks in a B or something like that, it's not going to work at all. So make sure to find the kicks. Make sure you find, when you're finding your kicks or making your kicks, that it's in tune of your track. The next thing I would add is basic white noise. So because white noise is going to add an extra, you could say it adds an extra effect to your song. So the white noise again is sidechained, very low volume. It's again sidechained, and you don't need to worry about EQing in sidechain because it's all over the place. So there's not much you need to do for EQing and sidechaining on your white noise. So on the whole, it should sound, you should get this. Yeah. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any feedback, you can put it in the comments below. Any questions, you can ask me in the comments below. Follow FLP Family on Facebook, and you can check my links on Facebook and SoundCloud as well. It will be given in the description below. Thank you for watching.